Hello and welcome to Inside DEI. I'm your host, Dr. Ashley Goodwin, and today we're going to be talking about a multi-generational workforce. We have two very special guests. We have Laurie Olague. She is the Senior ESG Reporting and Communications Manager. And we also have Carmen McCarthy, who is a Senior Global Solutions Development Executive for Life Cycle. Welcome, ladies. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome. We are going to get started. But before we do that, I want you to be able to share with the audience who you are and your role and how you feel that diversity, equity, inclusion is important to you.
Yeah. My role is Senior ESG Reporting and Communications Manager. So I work on our global ESG, environmental, social, and governance team to gather all of our highlights around different social issues, whether that's philanthropy, volunteerism, our HR practices, various topics that our stakeholders care about. And then do the same for our environmental topics and our governance topics as well. So I oversee both our communications, which is our social media, our websites, and all of the reporting that we do, including our big annual report, which will be coming out in June. Um, a little bit about me and why DE&I is important to me. I come previous to working at Ingram Micro. I've been here for a year. I worked primarily in social impact for about 13 years, and I worked with individuals experiencing homelessness, people experiencing incarceration, coming out of incarceration, and that really what led me to that career too was having family members who experienced that themselves. And so growing up, seeing how my brother struggled with how people treated him, having been in prison, made me want to make a difference in this world for those who had had similar experiences to him. So, that led me to social impact and then eventually led me to Ingram. So really happy to be here. On a personal note, I am a member of our Pride ERG, proud member. I am non-binary. I also have disability, and I have a son as well who is hard of hearing, and so I'm a member of our ERGs that support with those as well. And this topic means the world to me, so I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Carmen, tell us about yourself.
Dr. G. Well, I've been with Ingram for a very long time, over 20, I will say 25 years. And that's after leaving the company for a short period of time. I handle the ITED solutions for life cycle services. So really making sure that our environment is safe and clean of IT equipment. So I have a passion for that as well. DE&I is really important to me because really it's truly who I am and how I was brought up. I'm a Latina, and I've actually came into or I'm from a family that migrated from Puerto Rico. So my family really truly grew up, in an environment where diversity was at its worst. And it was watching my parents and family and neighborhood go through this, but really overcome. And my sister is a sergeant in the sheriff's department. I work, in the community. I'm a member of the Butterfly ERG group. I'm also a member of the multicultural ERG, and it's just been very, very important to me, and I hold it very dear to my
So I have a very important question for you both. Are you ready?
heart.
Yes.
Let's talk inclusion. Awesome. So, Lori, I have a question for you. You talked about in your intro about second chance environments a little bit. Can you expand upon what that social impact piece and second chance environments means in the diversity, equity, inclusion workspace?
Yeah, so Second Chance, there's a big Second Chance hiring initiative in California. I'm located in Irvine. So when I worked in LA, we really worked with hiring partners, companies, corporations, various community partners to ensure that people coming out of incarceration, out of prison, had opportunities to gain employment. Unfortunately, maybe 5-10 years ago, there were a lot of applications that asked about backgrounds, and it was okay back then to do that. So this initiative called Ban the Box gained a lot of momentum, eventually became a Fair Chance Hiring Act, where now employers in California and I think many other states in the US as well can no longer ask about that in an application or an interview. And so that is, done to provide more pathways to folks coming out of incarceration. But, there's a lot of work to be done. Imagine coming out of 30 years of incarceration and going into your first job. So my job was to help prepare people for that transition, to support them through that, and to help train our volunteers. So it's very rewarding, especially considering my brother's story. Yeah.
I can imagine. That's very, very interesting. Carmen, do you have any context, or do you want to expand, or do you have any ideas from what was just said? I think that's very impactful, Laurie. Thanks.
I well, in hearing Laurie's story, you're right. It is very impactful, and that second chance. Wow, that to me, it really means it's hitting home. In that we need to give everyone a chance to to be able to support themselves. Having my sister work as a sergeant in the sheriff's department, she has a firsthand view of those that walk in that door. And even she says that we have so much work to do in trying to help folks that, find themselves in that situation. Not all, people that go into that are incarcerated actually commit a crime of really of malice. There's a lot of things that are drug related. There are things, bad choices that people make, and they truly really feel that just having that stigma put on them, it hurts them when they can, they're viable, folks in the workforce that can come out and do the right job.
Hmm. And that's really that aspect of extending yourself some grace. We talk about giving ourselves grace a lot, but we rarely talk about giving others grace. When I say we, I'm talking about the mainstream. When we talk about, give yourself some grace, and a lot of corporate language, we have to also extend that grace to others as well. So that, like you said, to your point, Carmen, they are viable and can be very valuable within the work setting as well. So that's awesome. So we're going to dive into our topic today, which is a multi-generational workforce. And so I'm going to go with you, Carmen, first to start us off with this question. What does a multi-generational workforce mean to you in the technology space?
Wow, Dr. G, so important, especially at this point in time in my life. So being at Ingram for such a long time, I've actually witnessed the growth of Ingram, but I've also witnessed it's been a generational thing, right? Now I'm at a point in my career that I'm at almost at the end, right? So I'm the old person now. And I've always valued a multi-generational workforce in that I look at what I can learn from someone new coming into the organization. But I could also learn from someone that's a lot younger than me, that maybe they have a different set of eyes, looking at a situation. I'm always, it always surprises me that anytime that I get into a group in which there are a diverse group of not only ages and experiences and cultures, there's we always come out of there, with success, because what ends up happening is everybody comes to the table with their ideas. And yes, all ideas don't work originally, but it's the impact of what someone said, or someone said, hey, we tried this here, but we tweaked it here and we did this. But together, in the collaboration that comes together is, to me, it's success. It's really what should drive our companies to do business, on how to do business.
It's that representation piece. The representation really matters on so many different levels. And I'm happy that, you both are here with me today, because we're very representative on this panel of discussion and on a lot of different levels. So this is going to be great for our viewers to not only see, but to hear the stories that are attached with, our work spaces. So, Laurie, same question. Before we do that, I just want to say, brilliance has no age. I always say that because it's important to know, people often say, oh, you're too young for this or too, let's not do that. Or you're too, let's stay away from the stigma of the words young and old when it comes to the maturity and of a workspace or a person's value. So thank you. Thank you for that, Carmen. Same question, Laurie. What does it mean to you, multi-generational workforce in the technology space?
Yeah, well, I think the quote that comes to mind, I believe it's from Maya Angelou, but she says, in order to build our future, we have to know our past or where we've been. And so I'm a big believer that, having a multi-generational workforce, especially in a tech company, is crucial to being able to innovate. Because again, you can't know where you're headed and build that unless you know where you've been. And if you're just arriving on the scene, how are you going to know the story that came before you? And it's really important to develop a strategy, a plan, whatever it is, with that in mind, right? So that context is crucial. And I will also say that innovation, which I know is one of our values, we champion it a lot here at Ingram Micro. You hear it a lot. That doesn't belong to any one generation, doesn't belong to the young generation. We as humans, we're constantly innovating. We're constantly growing. It's part of our human process, right? To go through transformation. So, I just want to call that out because I feel like, there is a maybe not healthy association that innovation only belongs to younger generations. And I think that is not true.
Thank you. Now, you're just speaking my language here because creativity, which I'm really big on with scholar and creativity, can't have innovation without creativity. And creativity doesn't belong to one generation either. One of my favorite quotes on creativity is from Dr. Puccio. He says that creativity is novelty that's transformative. So one of the original quotes or the definitions of creativity is novelty that is useful. We can be useful, and I also agree with that. Well, it's time for us to be transformative. And then that's where you get those innovation processes, and they don't belong to one certain group. So that was great. So I'm going to keep the conversation here with you, Laurie, and we're going to go to Carmen. What's your opinion on how we can educate and engage with others on how to, give more grace to this multi-generational workspace?
Yeah. I think you touched on it a bit earlier, actually. This cultivation of empathy, being able to relate to other people and kind of share and understand their feelings is a crucial skill and a crucial position, I will say, to take when it comes to really any group. And so, we have to realize that, especially when it comes to generations, right? Whoever, if you're in the late career, group, then you've already been through early. You know what it's like to just be starting a job. You know what it's like to be mid-career, right? And same thing with the younger generations too, the early workforce. You're eventually going to be where that person is. You're going to be on the verge of retirement. So really the only thing separating us is this fine line of time, right? And, that's something that's out of our control and certainly no reason to treat anyone differently.
Mm-hmm. Great. Carmen, same question.
Laurie, love it, love it, love it, love it. For me, it's we have, for some reason, there's a lot of talk. You're hearing, opinions and conversations all over the place about a variety of things, and it seems like the one who screams the loudest is the one that's getting the attention. And what we're not doing is listening to understand. We have two ears, we have one mouth. We have two ears because the listening is what we need to do more of. I can't understand the next person if I can't hear what they're telling me, or if I'm talking over them, or if I'm not listening to what they're telling me. So I use all this as a learning experience. I'm at the, like Laurie says, I'm at the end of my career, but I'm always learning from my young adult children, learning from the people that are around me, because I take the time to listen. So I think that if we all looked at each other and just listened and had an open mind, I think that just brings success for me.
That's very important. Thank you, Carmen, because listening is often attributed to an authority figure. When people think that you tell them to listen, that they have to sit back and listen and be told what to do. But listening is very powerful because there's vulnerability and then there's information that's exchanged there. So you both brought up something that sparked in me with your answers, and that's a stigma that's attached to multi-generational workforce. Have you experienced any stigmas, or can you identify some that are attached to generations that in the workforce?
I've not experienced that as of yet, uh, but I know that I almost fear it because I think it's coming. As I leave Ingram, which I'm not leaving anytime soon, hopefully I can leave and retire and not have to work again. But I fear that an employer is going to look at me and think I'm too old and that I can't do a certain job. And so I try my very best not to do that to the young workforce coming in. They have a different way of doing things and applying things and how they want uh, the workforce to look like. So I love that I can have an open mind. I want our employees to have an open mind and not to be judgmental of any age. Whether you're young, whether you're middle aged, you know, everybody has something going on. But I just think if someone could just bring their authentic and unique selves to the workforce, then we can go ahead and really generate and cultivate that multi-general and inclusive workforce that we need in our society today.
Absolutely. Same question, Lori, but a little bit of a spin. What are some things that we can do to fight the stigmas attached to multi-generational workforce?
Oof, that's such a good question. Um, yeah, I mean, one of the things is that when you hear it and it comes up. I mean, honestly, for me, it comes up, whether it's at the family dinner table, family gatherings, right, with, multi generations, whether it's, at a table, at a meeting. And it's even sometimes gentle. It's not like, oh, directed towards, oh, millennials or, whatever. Sometimes it's subtle. And I think it's just important to remember, just like we wouldn't really say anything about, I don't know why it feels a little bit normalized to say things about certain generations that could be, hurtful or harmful in some way. So I think it's really important just to be, create self awareness around it. And it's really easy to pick up. And it's not to say there's no blame in it, right? Because we're products of our environment and that's how bias works, right? But like just to, just be aware of it and like be kind to ourselves still and just kind of work towards making sure that, we're not perpetuating those beliefs that, whenever we're slipping into generalizations about a generation, I think we need to kind of avoid that because again, each generation is diverse. You got people, we're a global company. We have people from all over the world that are part of a single generation. And to say that like any two people from that generation shares the same experience is just not true,
Hmm. And I think that awareness piece definitely comes into play. And just to give our audience members some context around what we mean by multi generational workforce, we're talking about boomers and Gen Xers and millennials and Gen Z. There is a lot of folks, and our generations are getting closer and closer in years and how we intersect. And so, really being united by uniqueness and creating that awareness that we do have different generations within the workspace and how can we intersect and work together and really take away those behaviors that are placed on one certain generation and really get a chance to connect and personally know someone so that you can grow professionally. Well, that's great. So now I want to hear more about you, Lori and Carmen. I'm going to go to Carmen, and I want you both to to share your story on how your social and lived experiences help shape you to be the executive and associates you are today. So, Carmen, I'll go to you first and then to Laurie.
Well, as I said earlier, I'm the first grandchild and firstborn to my parents here in the United States who migrated from Puerto Rico. It came at a time where there was just an influx of fighting there were so many immigrants coming in, and everyone was fighting with everybody, so it just wasn't a good environment. And then watching my parents navigate through that, through the the language barrier, through trying to get work, through having to work. My dad actually was he was a picker at one of the farms, which a lot of folks come in to do, and then to watch them grow. But more importantly, I lived in a neighborhood where all the families were of like, so we were all marginalized. It was a diverse group of families, but we were all the same. And I talk about this a little bit because it is it's how I was shaped. Watching our community come together instead of fighting is when we saw the change happen. When I had success, my entire neighborhood was excited for me. They cheered me on. They valued that. Every child that was in our neighborhood, the parents before them, they wanted the success. They wanted their children to do way better. It's put the work ethic that I have. I stick to a job. Being here for the length of time that I have is a proof that I stick to something, because that was something that was taught to me. I look at my children now and they jump from one job to another job, and that kind of freaks me out. But that's that generational thing. But that's not bad either, right? That works for them. But being here and just learning and growing with Ingram has taught me so much. But it's my background of where I came from, and really how my parents and our community raised me to really get into a job and to actually give it your all. And it's been nothing but great for me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Laurie, same question.
Yeah, so I shared a little bit in the intro, but definitely, similar to Carmen too, love hearing your story and how we grow up. I mean, how can it not shape us? Growing up, I was in a neighborhood that was heavily impacted by gangs. My brother was part of a gang. And, but then also I was going to a private school. So I almost had this there's no one at my school I could talk with about like my home life, and at least I didn't feel that way. And so I grew up kind of feeling like I was living like these two lives, like this very how could I say, like private school experience where I was very academic and very focused, but then this very chaotic and, sometimes impacted by violence, like upbringing and family, just because of the area that we were in. And, like that, I mean, it took me a while, and I will still say, and this is why I love DE&I so much. I feel like it's so important because like so many of us, right, going back to like the DE&I video, we show up to work, but we're someone else, or we feel like we have to check parts of ourselves at the door. And so having grown up kind of feeling that way, I'm really passionate about trying to merge that together and bringing, your whole self to work. And I really, that's what I appreciate about our ERGs and other, spaces, is that they really kind of empower people to do that, because it can be hard some days, for sure.
Wow. I know our viewers have a lot to really digest from both of your stories. And I've learned a lot from both of you today. And I think that that's important to really share your story, because you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, but it's important to connect, because not because you just want to know someone else's business, but because you just don't want to assume anything. That's how we connect both professionally and personally. And so I want to wrap up with more of a creative question, and it is about your ingredients for your ideal diversity space. So, Laurie, I'm going to keep it with you, and then we're going to go to Carmen. If you had three ingredients for your ideal or perfect DEI space, what ingredients would you add?
Oh, um, now you got me thinking like I'm in the kitchen and I'm trying to pull out the jars. So what? Okay, what spice do I need? um, I think like you need fun, you need creativity, like that I feel like is so important. Just in a workspace in general, but also, just when it comes to DE and I, being able to just that creativity also allows people to express themselves. It allows ideas, it allows innovation. So that's super important. I know you mentioned that earlier too. We also need liberation. We need liberatory workplaces. This is a concept I learned in my last organization. And I think, you know, and this is a little bit tougher, honestly, because it's similar to a lot of biases that can go unnoticed. But a lot of the culture that it kind of can come into the workplace can sometimes be based on like white culture. And so the idea of like liberatory workplaces is just being mindful of that and making sure that, our values are championing different groups and not just kind of a product of our society or our environment. So I think liberation, to recap, liberation, and creativity. And then the last one would be, I think, collaboration. You gotta bring people together. That's crucial, especially in this work. I think the more you bring people together, and this is the same with actually environmental social governance, the more you look at these different topics, the more you realize they're all related. And like, it's really important to bring people together from different groups, not only to share and learn about each other's experiences, but also to realize the intersectionality of like different things that we're all facing, right? Or that the challenges, also like different issues or different, things when it comes to actually doing like the impact work, right? There's so many things that are related. So I think when we bring people together, we start to, break down those silos and realize how interconnected everything is, and we all are.
I have quoted, first, thank you. I have quoted this quote from John Lundy, one of our associates at Ingram Micro, a thousand times. I'm going to say it again because it really sparked something that you said there. That true innovation is measured by how well we intersect. And I really, really believe that ranks true. And everything that you said just really put some more meat into the pot when it comes to the ingredients that we're talking about. So Carmen, same question. What ingredients do you have?
Thanks, Dr. G. It's funny, I had approach of our collaboration as well, because for me, it's very important that we all get together and share the ideas. But just as important is you yourself have to be approachable. So, you know, the other one for me is open mind. You have to come into it with an open mind. What I find, in multi-generational workforces, we have a lot of the older that, you don't want to get involved, or you're set in your ways. This is how it's been, want to keep going, instead of opening your mind to what the possibilities it could be, how you can make it better, how you can be part of the change instead of just being a bystander to it. So an open mind is important to me, and I have to get myself in check too, because I have children, and sometimes I'm set in my own ways, and I'm like, nope, don't want to do that. But once my children start explaining the why, then I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So that open mind is really important. I said this before, listening to understand. It is so important to just listen. I think that we just want to jump in. I know I'm a very talkative person. I want to jump in and solve the issue instead of just sitting back and having someone just talk. As a mother, I always want to jump in and hug someone, and don't allow a person to express themselves, because like I said, I want to fix it. It's just innate, born in me. And if you listen, and Laurie said this, when we all listen to each other, if we listen, we'll understand that we all want the same things. We all have a common ground. And it's just getting to that common ground so that we can, solve issues and be successful and be innovative and be all the things that we need to be to be successful in our, not only personally but professionally. I said listening is just that one intro. It's that one little piece that just needs to be the focus. And then, as I said, be approachable and collaborate. Those two to me come together, because if you can sit there and be in a meeting, but if you're not approachable, then no one's going to want to talk to you. So those are my ingredients.
Those are great. Those are great. It's been an awesome, and so I see the theme here of collaboration from both of you, and that is a really big one. And it's been great to collaborate with both of you today and within your unique roles with ESG and working with you as an ambassador, Carmen. It's been great. So shout out to both of you and your departments. It's been really, really impactful. And I've been here just shy of 9 months. So working with you both, I've learned a lot and I continue to grow. And I want to continue to connect with you both so I can continue to elevate in this space. So thank you both for joining me today. And this is Inside DEI, and I'm your host, Dr. Ashley Goodwin.